As I have said repeatedly, I am fascinated by serial killers, depraved criminals, horrid, rancid examples of humanity, the same way an oncologist is fascinated by cancer, about how a normal cell can go nuts, how wrong information can turn a cell into a stage 4 neoplasm. So nothing that I'm saying is out of any form of fascination with the people or any elevation of them as fascinating in a good way. I'm talking about the level of depravity. Why the level of depravity is so fascinating to me. Why it doesn't seem to end in terms of how normal people can be this twisted. And I have read and heard of a variety of people who are not necessarily psychopaths. We love that word. It might not be sociopathic. There are some people who just are, to use common parlance, evil. And we always love to talk about that. What do you call these people? You go back to Albert Fish, probably one of the originals of this. But Rex Heuermann is a fellow, this big, hulking, 60-year-old architect of sorts, who is now called the Gilgo murderer. And we find out that there are new pieces of information, new data that show that his earliest killing sprees might have started in 1993. Very, very, very spread out, as far as we know, okay, or as far as authorities know. I detailed recently the case of Bernard Giles, who did 5 cases in 3 months, 5 murders in 3 months, at the age of 20. That was a turbocharged serial killer. This is more prototypical, longer. But what's very interesting is what information has been found in terms of police searches. Let me go over a few of these things. Following Heuermann's arrest, police investigators searched his residence on a number of occasions and discovered over 350 electronic devices that contained a, quote, significant collection of violent pornography dating back to 1994, according to the bail application. The obscene images allegedly accessed by Heuermann notably coincided with how the one particular victim and others were disposed, or were rather discovered. What's even more fascinating, and we're going to talk about this now, among the electronic data being combed through and collated by police investigators, they found a Word document, apparently dating back to the year 2000. It appears to be the alleged serial killer Heuermann's planning document that listed, quote, problems he is expected to run into and supplies required to commit the murders, and a DS column that listed Mill Road, this one particular place, as a dumpster site. Let me go through this. Listen to this. Again, this is not to play up. This is not to in any way make it seem like we're lauding this by any stretch of the imagination. It's not. But the list is just demented. And I had this right here. As you can tell, whenever I move around, there we go. Okay. Rule number 1. Please, this is not meant as an instructional or a procedural, a tutorial. Because a lot of these folks think they're just geniuses. They think that they're possessed with this, not only this superhuman plotting. They're so ingenious. Number 1, why are you doing all of your killings right here? Why? Again, I don't want to go into details of what I would do, because I wouldn't do it. But if I were to do something, I think everybody knows this, of this nature, why am I doing it right here? Why? Why am I not moving bodies elsewhere, transporting? I know that's risky, but if you're having all of these folks, these poor women, and by the way, some of them were escorts, translation prostitutes, which goes to show you, listen, you want to legalize this stuff? Go ahead. I hope it would perhaps maybe make them less disposable. I don't know. I don't want to get off into that because it's sad to say these women were engaged in the sex trade, and it was that particular sex trade that made them more preferred as a victim. But let's assume he were to take a person to drive to Virginia and dump a body there. And they say, hey, we found a woman in Virginia with your hair sample. In Virginia? As opposed to within a 3-block area. I cannot tell you how many times, both as a prosecutor and then later on in criminal defense, where when people do something, they fall into habits and patterns and MOs and the way they approach victims, what they say, the equipment used, the form of a dispatch in any event. And some of these listings, one says takedown / solidus, pick up, hunt too long, seen in area too long. Remember, don't charge gas. Recon for video cams and pickup area next time. Don't charge for gas because maybe they can say if you went in a particular area out of your realm. Body prep. Listen. Wash body inside and all cavities. Remove trace evidence. Fingerprints, hair. Remove trace DNA. Remove ID marks. Tattoos, marks. Remove a tattoo. Remove marks from torture, misspelled. Remove head and hands. Package for transport. Dispose of the following: tools and devices, T1 clothes and personal items, drop clothes, wipes and towels, props, toys, wood items, anything that touched T1. I guess that's, you don't tell me what T1 is. I'm sure you know. If you know what T1 is, please comment. What you wore, destroy book and computer files, well, except for this. Burn gloves, dispose of box and plastic bags to avoid trace. Now, what does this do? First, any chance whatsoever of trying to advance a no premeditation defense is shot to death by virtue of this. That's number one. Number two, for sentencing purposes, and I do not believe he is going to avail himself of the death penalty in New York. But, and in any other situation, there is a depravity which goes to the aggravating aspects of this, which is so horrible. Next, it shows something which is so unique. I know this is not the first time that somebody did this, but when you see this methodical, painstaking effect of planning each and every move, it actually will kill and destroy any chance of an insanity defense, diminished capacity, because it shows you, does he know right from wrong? Clearly, under the McNaughton rule, clearly he knows right from wrong, because he's planning how to avoid being detected and being apprehended for doing things that are wrong. He knows it's wrong by virtue of this particular methodical attention to detail. Remember, my friend, this is not in any way lauding. You know, sometimes these real crime shows, I think they kind of are groupies. They're excited by this. There's nothing exciting about this at all. This is horrid. This is hard because what I wish people would see is what these bodies look like when they are found. I wish we had, especially a lot of these kind of ghoulish real crime shows, go there, be a part of it, smell it, have the cadaver dog, see what happens when you're pulling remnants and remains of people and shards of clothes, and what happens to the body, what happens after putrefaction, and when a body is skeletonized. Excuse me, look at actual pathological advice for forensic evidence of a skull that's crushed. Have you ever seen this? Ever seen a fracture? I mean, a serious, depending upon the particular type of death. And by the way, his lawyer has got to stop talking about this. His lawyer says, well, how do I know it was his? I mean, they say it's his computer. I guess, stop it. You have no comment. Sit down. Your job is sentencing. Your job is clearly sentencing. That's all. There's no defense. This is going to be a plea. So do yourself a favor if you're interested in trying to minimize your client's exposure, which is significant. Keep your mouth shut. Be quiet. We'll talk more about this. But remember, you don't understand what good is unless you understand horror. Unless you understand how demented and how deranged these people are and how they can be. All right, dear friends. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell so you're notified of live streams and new videos. Or whatever you do, please comment as you see fit.